Okay. Well, let's get started now because it is 5 o'clock, and I want to start with this. Today I gave you guys the handouts, so we're dealing with in the order of paired passages for reading comprehension first, and then we're going to do math, and then we're going to talk about the SAT essay, which we haven't gone in depth on, but we'll talk about it a little bit more today. So let's flip this open and talk about what we have here. You guys have seen paired passages in the practice tests that you guys have taken. It's usually dealing with two passages that have the same topic. It's always going to show up. There's 5 passages in reading comprehension. So one of the, or 5 units of passages in reading comprehension. One of them is going to have paired passages. Typically, they're talking about the same topic. And the first passage will have a stance on a topic. And the second passage typically will have a different stance. They aren't as obviously in conflict with each other, but typically they don't agree with each other, okay? Typically they have a different stance about something. And you're gonna see that as we go into the sample. The paired passages make up about 20% of reading comp questions because it's 1 out of the 5 units of passages. The question types are typically challenging because they ask you to find what is similar about the 2 authors, what is different about the 2 authors, or how one author would comment on the other author. So those are the 3 scenarios. I'll repeat that. So it typically represents about 20% of reading comprehension. And there are 3 types of questions. How are they similar? How are they different? Or how would one author comment on the other? And while reading, it's especially important to keep straight who said what. Now, there's no magic formula to this. The easiest way to keep straight who said what, okay, is to do these steps, which is number 1, read passage 1 and then go straight to the questions and answer the questions that deal only with passage 1. Don't read the passages back to back. Does anybody know why that is not recommended?
Yeah, basically.
Exactly. I think all 3 of you would have said the same thing, which is you'll confuse the 2 different viewpoints that they have.
Yeah.
One thing I'll also say is when you look at answer choices, typically wrong answer choices represent the view of the other author. So if you read passage 1 and passage 2 and you went to the answer choices, you would get confused because the question might say, the author of passage 1 believes this. And you'll look at the answer choices and you're like, wait, one of them believed this, but I don't remember. Was it author 1 or 2? So by not reading both of the passages back to back, you only have the perspective of author number 1 when you go to the questions. So you won't be influenced by author 2, okay? Then obviously you read passage 2 and then answer the questions that deal with passage 2 and the comparative questions. I would save them for last because by then you will have distinguished what is author 1 saying, what is author 2 saying. I know the difference. So in the back of your mind, when you read these, you're really looking for a way to position author 1 on one side, author 2 on the other side, and see what's different about them. But to keep in mind, what is common for both of them? It's typically the topic area that's common for them, but they have different perspectives on it. Before we move right into reading this stuff, you can see that this packet separated the 2 passages, and if you flip forward like about 4 pages, you'll see the typical format. The typical format looks like this, where you have 2 passages side by side with each other, right? This is the typical format. So you want to keep the 2 passages separate from each other so you can keep straight who said what. So since this is done for us, we're only going to be reading passage 1 first. Let's take a few minutes and do that, okay? And then we'll talk about it. Turn this back on. So let's break down this passage for a second. There's only 3 paragraphs here. What is significant about paragraph 1? Hey, Jeremy?
Like the main idea.
Main idea of paragraph 1.
Right, so I wrote down the definition of invasive species, and then I said that the passage states that they're very bad and dangerous for the environment.
Okay, so he defines invasive species. Yeah.
Also introduces the snakehead, is that what they're called?
Yeah, the snakehead introduces. Okay, I like that.
So it also provides an example.
I actually saw a snakehead fish in a supermarket. I was in Concord, and I went to this place called Seafood City, and I was just walking around the frozen section, and I said, "Oh my gosh, that is a snakehead fish." They labeled it as that. I'll show you guys the pictures.
Did they just not know?
I don't know. I guess some people eat it.
Yeah, right.
Well, it's dead, yeah, but I mean, still, people actually.
Restaurants aren't supposed to have.
The funny thing is, people eat it. Okay. Well, true.
Well, maybe it is allowed if it's imported, killed. Like if its head is gone, maybe it's illegal.
I'll show you guys. It looks like a snake. So, what about paragraph 2, Jeremy? You can do it.
Like what can be done and what is being done to stop them.
What can be done and what?
I wrote down the main idea of paragraph 2 was that laws in the US are too sluggish by definition.
I would lean more towards that because I think he does talk about how measures have been taken, but the more important point was that they've been slow to take action.
Even though it's evidence. Yeah.
I said,
Go ahead, Emma.
like, what should you do and isn't enough?
Do they say whether or not it's enough?
Well,
here?
not as enough as like, hey, maybe this isn't enough from your point of view to stop it.
I think they did say it was enough, it's just too late.
Mm-hmm.
Can't remember it out.
Well, they mentioned how there's illegal selling, and they do talk about draining the ponds and lakes. So those are efforts that can and have been done. But I think the more important thing was it hasn't been done. Not enough has been done already. It hasn't. It's the specific words that they were slow to action, I think. So that's really, and that's kind of what Jeremy said there. So measures.
Come too slowly, yes. Slow.
I think that's short enough, but I think it covers everything that everyone said there.
Yeah.
What about the 3rd paragraph? What do you guys think is the most important thing here? Jim?
I wrote down that the main idea of the paragraph is like, even though there's all these bad things happening, there's still hope because awareness is increasing and people who are like interested scientists are increasing.
Okay, increasing interest. Yeah. Increasing. Sure. Anything else that people want to add?
That was more like, hey, this is a real issue, or summarizing.
Yeah. True. Anything else?
What can be done in the future?
More can be done in the future. Yeah. I'd like to combine it. It is showing that they're increasing their interest, but it is also saying that he's almost suggesting if scientists, government officials, and the general public work together and make it provide a priority to identify and prevent, we may at least be able to minimize the unwanted. So he's saying we need a joint effort of scientists, government officials, and the public. So that's what he's saying. So increased interest. Need more effort. I'm trying to keep these notes as short as possible because obviously we're not gonna like write a book and go really technical on our notes. If we were to give this an overall thesis, theme, purpose, what would this be? What would you say, Jeremy?
The snakehead is invasive species in the US.
and the government hasn't been nothing about them.
That's more summary, but purpose.
Oh, I thought you said the summary.
No, more of a, yeah, you're right on summary, but like, why did this author write this?
To
That's really,
encourage people to take action against.
yeah, I think so.
To prevent.
Encourage people to take action. Invasive species. Anything else that people wanted to add to the purpose of this? Any disagreement? Did you believe anything different? Okay, that's pretty good. Okay, now we're gonna go to the questions. We'll do these together. I know that you guys can do this like a test, but I want people to contribute and share ideas and thoughts. Let's start over here, Jeremy, with number one.
Number one, the first sentence of passage one functions primarily to, okay, so looking back, that's right, animal species is to an area where it doesn't actually occur causing economic or environmental harm. Okay, so, to indicate there's.
Rather than reading the answers, in your own words, what was the purpose of the first sentence?
Oh, yeah, okay, okay, so the first sentence is to define what an invasive species is.
Right. Yeah.
And its effects.
Okay. So to define what is an invasive species. Now I think you're better going down the list of answers and saying yes or no.
A, indicate that a certain issue is controversial. Now, compare two distinct perspectives on a problem. Now, introduce an interpretation that's later refuted. Now, so D, define a key item used throughout the passage. Yeah.
And that's exactly what you said, D.
Yeah.
Even before you looked at it. It was correct because you knew what was the right thing before. Okay, Emma, number two.
The comparison between native fish and snakeheads in line 10 through 15 is primarily a comparison between, I have to read it out loud, 10 through 15.
I would look back at it and then formulate an answer. I'm more interested in you formulating an answer.
Does it mean like the ideas behind it or sort of the bigger idea?
What do you mean by ideas to serve a bigger idea?
Like comparison between, I think that it means like whether or not they have predators in the natural regions.
I like that. Whether or not they have predators.
Natural predators?
Natural predators. That's kind of what they were saying with native fish. It says native fish have natural predators to keep their population. Snakeheads.
I would say that, I get what I think it is.
Are you saying answer or are you?
No, just my interpretation.
Yeah, interpretation.
So I think that the thing between lines 10 and 15 is to show an example of the effects it can have, like a very scary example, something to like make you more aware of the like extreme nature of the threat that it poses.
Okay, extreme nature of the threat.
Well, I think that's just kind of the definition of what it's like to bring a non-native thing into the new ecosystem where they wouldn't have a natural predator.
Right. Okay, that's good.
Maybe. I'd go with C.
C is correct. Tell us why you chose that, and then tell us why the others are not correct.
Because I was talking about how it was about having natural predators versus not having natural predators, and C is species that are subject to certain constraints, and those are not subject to it, and so predators would be natural constraints.
Correct. The constraint is natural predators, and the other ones, which are non-native, do not have that. What about the other ones, A through D? Why would you say no to those?
D, they already recognized it as something that's an issue because America's already taken action without guarantee. Action. B, just doesn't make sense to me to try to apply it.
He doesn't bring up expenses,
Yeah.
does he?
And then A, it sort of makes sense, but it doesn't work with what I came up with.
That's not the bigger point that he's come. Yes, we do know that one is native and one is non-native, but his bigger point is the constraints from having natural predators and not having natural predators. So C is your better answer on that. Okay, great job. Jeremy, over here, number 3.
The author of Passage 1 implies which of the following about the laws in the United States pertaining to invasive species. So he thinks that they weren't put in quickly enough.
Okay.
So A, they should have put in that yes.
Mm-hmm.
They should, or they must be interpreted carefully in order to avoid this application. No. They fail to adequately balance economic and environmental concerns. No. They're primarily due to concerns over the effect of the state net.
That's too, when I look at those B, C, and D, they don't bring up misapplication or interpretation in this passage. They fail to adequately balance economic. Does this author even bring up economics? Does not. And then primarily due to concerns over the effects. That's too general, I think. Doesn't really answer that. Okay, pretty good job here. What I want to do now is we have another passage, so we'll spend a few minutes reading that. And why don't we do that and we'll talk about it. So there's only two paragraphs, although they're really long paragraphs. So let's talk about these two paragraphs. Who wants to volunteer for the big long one, the first one? Okay, Jeremy.
Right, so I thought that the first paragraph was kind of, the purpose was to, it was like to address that it may be a problem, but it's not even sure if the really high cost solutions we've made for it actually work. It's not clear if it's really like at the bottom.
Yeah.
It says we're not even really sure how huge of an impact it really is, even though it might be big. It's certainly not as big as other things.
Okay, you actually pointed out a few good points. It is an issue. It may not be as big as other issues, and the cost of solving it is still yet to be determined as cost effective. So he questions the cost effectiveness. Did anybody want to add to that?
I remember it's an issue, but it's exaggerated.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's true. He does talk about that. So let's put a few notes in here. So one, so I wrote invasive species is an issue. It's exaggerated, questionable cost effectiveness, and I'll add this because Jeremy brought it up. Let's give two other issues. Because he did bring up other issues. Anything else to add here? Since we heard from these two over here, I want to go over to Jeremy here. What about the second paragraph?
So I said it was like that we should strike a balance between invasive species between economic funding and environmental impact of that economic funding.
Mm-hmm. He does bring that up. So economic, say it again, what you wanted to
Says
say.
we should strike a balance between economic funding and the environmental impact of that economic funding.
Okay. Balance. Economic. Funding versus environmental. Okay, those are pretty good there. Anything else important here? I think there's more stuff in this paragraph that we could add. What else did he say?
Talked about data and how to treat data.
How do you do it?
That the current data around the snakehead and stuff like that is what's the word they use? Scientific data can be valuable because of persistent issues we should watch closely. But simply identifying environmental threat does not mean we should automatically give priority over important issues.
And can you say that in fewer words?
Yes. The word that comes to mind is exaggerated, like the data is being used to blow this issue out of proportion in comparison to other more real threats.
Kind of. I don't know if he's saying it's exaggerating too much. Yeah,
I
Jeremy?
would say that he's saying that the discovery of a new environmental harm doesn't warrant funding for that harm. Like just the discovery itself.
Just the discovery.
Yeah.
I was just going to go off the first sentence, but he says scientific evidence is lacking, right? Which means not enough data. That's really what he's saying. So what Jeremy just said is like, just because we find it doesn't mean we have to address it. But I think I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, fine, that's what it says.
Yeah.
Right, does not mean we should automatically give it priority. So not enough data to give priority. Let's combine those things. So that's basically what this author is saying. If you guys were to give this person a purpose, what was this person's argument? Main purpose of his argument? What would you guys say?
The problem of invasive species, although it does exist, shouldn't be given critical importance like it has been.
Okay. Shouldn't be given critical importance. Okay, that's a good point. Anybody else want to add to that? I would agree that because it contrasts the other person's purpose. This person is encouraged to take action. This person is, IS is important, but not enough to take action.
More action, too much action.
Not enough to take action. Right? Would you guys agree on that? You guys see a contrast now, right, between the two passages. So I don't know if you remember the wrong answers from the questions from passage 1. A lot of them reflected author 2. That's what I'm going to tell you. But because we didn't read the second passage, it felt out of place. You looked at it and you're like, that's never mentioned. So let's go to the questions now. For question 4, Emma, you want to read that one for us?
Sure. I was just gonna say, I remember one of them, so that's
Yeah, you're right. One of the wrong answers from passage 1 talked about expenses. But let's read question 4 and
the
see.
example of carp in Great Lakes, lines 62 through 63, sort of comment. I think it's to point out how much money goes into this sort of thing
Okay.
and how it's not always warranted. Like there could be greater issues that don't make.
Could be greater issues, not always warranted. I like that. Okay, let's look at the answers. Give us yes and no.
No.
You're talking about A?
I'm going to.
Okay.
No. B.
C is your answer. Tell us why you chose C, and then tell us why not the other ones.
Was it correct?
It is correct.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, C is correct, but tell us why.
Because mine was, it's a lot of money to go into something like this. And then A talks about non-native plants and animals that constantly, which is great.
Okay.
B, draw a parallel between the discovery of scientific fish and the discovery of another type of fish. They don't mention that it's a discovery of a new type of fish, just that it's there. And then C, illustrate a case in which the expense of controlling an invasive animal may not have been justified, which is basically verbatim. But
That is exactly what you said. You said not warranted, and you said it was costly, right, Jeremy?
It might be wrong, but it says the discovery of snakehead fish in Maryland, for instance, was highly publicized, and then later it says, I know, but then it says likewise, which means it's like a similarity, right? So that would also be the discovery.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So,
But the one that is mentioned in Maryland is line 59, 50, right? And this question is more concerned with 62 to 63, which is the carp, right? And the most important point about the carp was addressed at a great cost. And then it does at the end of 63, which is really leading to 64, it does say while they do pose real problems, there are other problems that deserve the funding.
Likewise, seems like a weird choice of words there, because it's not similar to the previous. Because it says it was addressed at great cost, but the thing before that just says discovery, right?
I think well, okay, within this range of lines, he questions adequate funding, competing for adequate funding. Then he compares it to the Maryland CARP, which he other reinforcing funding issue and so warrant to spend the money there.
Yeah.
That's what it rather than the discovery. Yes, there's a discovery because that's how they figure out there's a problem, but
Yeah.
the bigger comparison is, was it worthwhile?
Okay.
So, yeah. Okay, good. Good job on that one. But the answer was C. Let's go to 5 over here, Jeremy. We hear less from you, so I'm kind of.
The author has refers to invasive species as a hot topic in the media on 67 in order to, I think it's to like give a reason why funding is going to snakehead fish right now, and say that like the same thing could happen in the future.
Kind of. Well, let's look at 67 real quick. It says the fact that invasive species are currently a hot topic in the media does not mean they should overshadow larger environmental issues. So this goes back to what I think we were saying earlier, exaggerated, right? That's really what's happening. So what's the best answer here?
Here the media's influence from environmental policy to other influences on environmental policy. Probably not. Illustrate ways in which the media can make mundane issues sound exciting. No. Illustrate that media attention may contribute to a misguided view of environmental priorities.
Yes. Misguided view, I mean, I think it's because we hear it. I've actually seen stuff on TV. It was like on a show like 2020, which was saying, it was a story about snakehead fish. It really was one. I was like, wow, this really made it to the media. I thought it was exaggerated from these articles, but they really did. So let's go to number 6 here. Jeremy, over here.
Science would be real quick.
But you, since he just answered that, yeah.
The example of the removal of snakehead fish cited in like 76 to 79 from realism too.
I'm gonna find the photo of the snakehead fish in a second.
Okay, so I think this is probably to illustrate that because the media is focusing on this, we're spending a lot more money on this very minor problem that we should be, because we drained an entire lake and like the whole thing and found one fish, basically just the one that they spotted.
Right.
So it's kind of to show that this problem is unwarranted.
Unwarranted problem. Okay. What's the best answer then?
Spending such a large sum to contain a single invasive species is never justified. Could be, but there might be a better one. Illustration of scientific evidence species was lacking now. By seeing a fish in those reinforce the invasive species is a valuable role now. So
too strong of an answer. You know why it's too strong of an answer?
Well, I said never, and that might be why it's not.
It's too strong. When you see never, that's like, whoa. Let's probably hold back from choosing that one.
Well, it wasn't scientific evidence. It wasn't a comparison between snakehead.
I hear disagreement from Jeremy over here. And why would you say B?
Because I would think that it's like they were overreacting in a situation where they didn't have the evidence to justify spending that much money.
That's the answer. Because if you look at the previous sentence, in that paragraph, it starts the paragraph saying scientific evidence is lacking. And then it goes to reinforce it with an example where they emptied a lake, cost $10,000, and they only found one. And that's to show that there wasn't enough evidence to spend the money and then find out, oh, it's just one, right? So pretty good job there on questions that deal with only passage 2. One thing I'm going to say is when you do the test, they don't necessarily put the question in order. First 3 are passage 1, 4 through 6 are passage 2. The last 4 are going to be about both passages. They may just give you the very first question that looks comparative, skip it, and just do the ones that are just passage 1, then you read passage 2. You have to kind of hunt and peck to find the ones about that. Does anyone want to see what a real snakehead looks like? I'll pass this around.
I'll be back in afterward.
Yeah, well, I was just,
It looks like super prehistoric.
it looks like a snake, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's up in the market in Concord. This is a snakehead fish.
Well, I remember the passage 1 just said it's illegal to own as a pet and it's illegal to sell as a pet. So maybe
Yeah.
it's legal to sell as food. Yeah.
I guess that doesn't look too appetizing when you look at it. I looked at it, I was like, dang, that thing really looks like a snake.
I mean, a lot of things that don't probably pretty good.
Yeah.
Like I was on once, that was pretty good.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Just, I guess knowing what it is probably what makes it.
Chicken.
A lot.
Yeah, that's true. Everyone has had chicken. Well, let's go to these comparative questions here. We'll start with Emma with number 7 here. And how would you go through this one?
The authors of both passages agree on the value of certain value. Otherwise, I would say that they both agree that maybe invasive species is an issue.
Okay,
But value.
that's a good point that you made. You said invasive species is an issue, and both authors did address that.
Yeah, but it says agree on the value of.
I'm glad you also noticed that it's not the topic, it's the value. So what do you think they do value here?
Value action against immediate scientific threat.
Kind of.
A little bit of a stretch.
Does anyone want to contribute to that? What value do you think both authors agree with? Yeah, Jeremy?
Spending money on environmental stuff.
Yeah,
Stuff to save the
spending
environment.
money on environmental protection.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, saving the environment. Okay. Let's look at the answers real quick and see what,
Environmental protection is a worthwhile goal.
that's pretty strong. Okay, what about the others? Can you knock them out?
The containing invasive species wherever and wherever they seem to pose a threat. Passage 2 was like, well, what about the money reasons? So it's not that.
Correct.
C, using scientific data to evaluate the severity of environmental problems. Only passage 2 brought up scientific data, while passage
Good.
1 didn't bring up data at all.
Good.
And then D, making policy decisions that are economically sound. That's like a lot of words that are just about the subject, while A actually sounds like it mentions the subject.
No, A doesn't mention economics.
Oh,
B does. B is concerned with economic, right? Economically sound meaning, was it worthwhile
yeah.
to do it, right?
1 never brings up money.
One
So
was like,
B, A.
this is an emergency.
Yeah.
Money is no object.
Let's get the government, let's get the society, let's get scientists to all team up. That's what
Yeah.
passage 1 says. So I would say A. Just, I know that was your immediate reaction, like, why read the rest of this, right? But yes, A was the best one.
The rest of it.
Yeah, but they shared that value that environmental protection was important. So good on that one. Let's go to number 8. Let's go over here to Jeremy Huebner.
The other author of passage 2 suggests which of the following of the continuing measures mentioned in passage 1. That they might not be warranted by scientific evidence and that they might be too costly.
Yes, that's what author 2 criticizes. Okay, what's our best?
They are inadequate to prevent the spread of some invasive plants or animal species. No, he just says that more research should be done.
Okay.
B, they may not be justified given the associated costs. Yeah. C, their efficiency is questionable because of the time required to implement them. He doesn't really talk about time. Time is like more talks about money. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
D, media interest in them will decline once they're shown to be ineffective. No. B.
Mm-hmm. The author 1 doesn't even bring up the media.
Yeah.
Right. So B is the best one. He says it may not be justified given the cost. Good. I like how you gave kind of a little explanation about those. That was good. And then Jeremy Rodenberg, you get to do the hardest one, number 9.
The author of passage 2 would most likely characterize the measures endorsed by the author of passage 1. So, without looking at the answers, I would probably say too costly.
Costly.
So,
Okay. So let's see how that fits with these descriptions here.
oh, and also like
Costly.
so costly and like not well thought out.
Not well thought out. Okay. Costly and not well thought out. Okay, let's give a yes or no to these.
That's why superficial and reactionary. Maybe you would say they're superficial. Well-meaning but simplistic. No. Ineffective and misguided. No. Unnecessary and expensive. That's definitely it.
So, I haven't been able to get rid of this cough for weeks, but does everyone agree that it's D? Or are there other points?
I might say this.
Okay. A.
I think that he agrees that it's necessary.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think A, because he talks a lot about it being reactionary, and he also talks about how like more scientific data is needed.
But he talks more about
superficial.
it's too expensive.
That's true.
Okay, Emma, do you have a viewpoint?
Not really.
I think you should, because neither of them are right.
I would say that it's ineffective and misguided.
And the answer is B.
Everything but.
Everything.
Simplistic.
So the reason why I said this is the hardest question
Is it because one of them includes like one of the values, but the other one isn't true?
yeah, and how do we interpret these adjectives, right? These adjectives, they take a lot of interpretation. The word superficial means on the surface, right? So the solution of emptying a lake is actually not superficial, because if you do empty the lake, you will kill off the fish and anything that was living dependent on the water.
I think more of like petty drama when I think of the word superficial than like.
Right, cat
environmental-
fighting, right? But
Yeah.
that's not what they're saying. They're saying the solution of emptying the lake would be only lightly touching the problem, but for that lake, it would be effective because you would, take out all the living beings on it. Let's go to C. Ineffective. Well, we just explained that if you do empty a lake, it is effective because it will kill off. Yeah. And misguided, it is misguided. That part, so it was a no yes on that one. A was also a no yes. And then D, unnecessary and expensive. It's not that it's unnecessary to address, and it would be too strong to say unnecessary, because the author two was basically saying it is an issue, but it's not necessarily priority number one. So he's not saying it's unnecessary, but he is saying it is expensive. Well-meaning is saying that yes, if you do address this issue, you have an environmental goal in mind, but it's too simplistic just to go out there and spend the money and empty a lake. So that's why he goes with B. That was a hard question, right? Because it's kind of like, and you'll see that on the SAT, you'll see these type of things where they'll say, which adjectives fit best to describe the author's intent? And you're kind of like, well, this is tough, right? So can we do like a mini break here? I just need to get water because I'm coughing my head off. So, all right. into this here, and I know you're playing the cards there.
What are you doing?
Oh, I'm keeping track of every time someone wins.
Did you name your 4 people or 5 people?
How
No.
many times do
Just
you play?
person A,
One,
B,
two,
and C.
three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 25, 26, 27.
You think the
Okay,
person on the far left
well,
will be winning a lot?
Let's get into this here, Emma. Let's turn the pages a little bit.
Yeah,
So we should be on the math section now. And I know that these topics seem rather easy, but interestingly, this chapter actually has some of the most interesting math questions as we progress. The topics don't seem hard, but they present some of the most interesting math questions for this entire course. So percents, I think we should be very familiar with. Percents represents part versus whole, like the total number correct versus total number of questions, right? So just remember to multiply by 100% because otherwise it'll be a decimal. And this also helps us with probability because when you think of probability, in the rules of probability, 100 is the maximum, 0 is the least. So part to whole would be like, what's your probability of picking a red marble out of a group of 20 marbles, right? You have your part, which is red, your whole, which is all marbles. So if you know any part, you can figure out the third. This is pretty straightforward. Let's start over here with Jeremy Rodenberg. You want to read number 1 for us?
Oh, it's only 220.
Mhm.
If 35% of x is 14, then what's 45%? So you have to find x first.
Right. How
You
would
can do
you
that
set
like
that up?
fraction equal thing. So 35 over 100 is 14 over x. And then you can solve for x doing that cross thing. So 30. Would we have a calculator for a problem like this? 35x is 1400.
Yeah, I mean, well, there's one part that does have a calculator, there's one part that doesn't.
Well, I suppose you could divide by 5. So 6.
Oh, you mean on the left side? Okay.
Yeah. So 6x would be
Why would it be 6?
What?
6x?
no. So the way I know how to do it, so you multiply crosswise. So 35x equals 1400.
Oh, I see what you mean. I thought you were reducing this, but.
No, that's not what I was doing.
Okay, 35x.
Although you probably could do that.
1400. Sure. And then,
So you divide by 5, so that's 200. 6x is 280.
mm-hmm. Okay.
Divide by 2, I guess.
What? Why would you divide by 2? I don't think so. I divided by 5 on both sides, just like you said.
Yeah. Wait, 7.
I got a 7.
Oh, okay, I wrote down the wrong thing.
Yeah,
6x.
I just wrote exactly what you had.
Okay.
Divide by 7.
Okay, yeah. So
Leave the x by itself,
so,
right?
Yeah. No, I wrote down the wrong thing. I think I didn't.
I heard a 6 in there. I was like, that wasn't really.
Yeah. I don't know. So, what, 40?
140?
No, 40.
40.
I said that's why.
So x is equal to 40,
Yeah.
but that's not where we end,
Yeah,
right?
so what's 45% of x? So 45 over 100 equals x over, no. X over 40, is that it? Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Well, maybe we should say y, because.
No, that's fine. Yeah, you can call it y if you want to call it that.
Yeah, that's what I would do.
Okay, you can call it y. All right. This 40 is x, right?
So let's do what you said earlier and start by simplifying it down first.
You can do that.
So divided by 5, so that's 9 over 20.
Right. And then, say it louder.
You just sort of cancel it out.
Cross multiply. Cross multiply. Oh, I see. Say that again?
Does that make sense or am I not making sense?
You're not making sense. You can't just cancel this and this.
No,
Maybe-
what if you multiply it by,
You cross multiply both sides. So
So
this will be 40 times.
you
Nine.
probably, no, you
20.
could, I think, and it's this way you're saying, so you could multiply both sides of that starting thing by 20/20.
I wouldn't multiply by the 20. You're wasting time when you do that because you're going to move all your numbers
Yeah.
over here. You don't need the numbers on this side.
21.
Multiply both sides by 40. You want to clear that 40 in the denominator because you want to isolate y by itself.
4 times 9 is 36. That's
You don't even need to do that.
16.
40 divided by 20 is 2. 2 times 9 is 18. Drop the marker.
well, that's what I was trying to say, if you increase them both, 9/20 is also 18/40, and you just cancel out both 40s,
Oh,
and
that's
so
what
it's
you meant.
y equals 18.
Oh, okay, yeah, that works too.
So that would be it.
Yeah.
Our answer would be y, which is 18 in this case.
Which
So-
is C.
Correct. So C's our best one. My question to all of you, when I looked at this question, personally, I've done this question hundreds of times.
Yeah.
Hundreds and
Very
hundreds.
common, I've noticed.
I mean, I've literally done this question because I've taught it hundreds of
Oh,
times.
I
But
like this time.
But I'm gonna ask you this question. I just did it exactly how Jeremy was doing, because he was doing it out loud. But did you guys all put it into proportions? I didn't put it into proportions when I did this. Did you put it into proportions, Emma?
I don't like fraction math.
Okay. Look, I just want to bring this up just because I personally did not think in proportion. You got it right, which is fine. But what I really want to drive home here, let me erase this for 2 seconds here, is the idea of translating a sentence into an equation left to right. Okay, when I saw this, the words 35%, I did not see a percentage sign. Nothing wrong with it. I'm just telling you I didn't see it, but I read percentage sign here. And I just want to reinforce translating left to right. Jeremy Hubinger, did you think percentage?
No.
You didn't? Okay, so there's multiple ways of doing this and still getting the same. I just want to share with you guys how I thought of it. Just because with math, there's multiple ways of coming to the same answers. They all converge. If you do it right, you're going to get this. But I would have written this, 35%. The word of means multiply of x. What is equals 14. You guys see that?
Yeah.
So I converted this as 0.35 of x equals 14. X is 14 divided by 0.35. If this is the calculator section, just punch that, you're done, right? And it gives you x is equal to whatever we have, 40, right? I didn't see I mean, it's different perspectives because I've taught hundreds of students the same lesson and they have used proportions. But what I really want to introduce is the idea of translating left to right.
Well, I think viewing it as a percentage instead of a fraction works better in the calculator section, and I think viewing it as the fractions works better in the non-calculator.
Well, even if you didn't have it, these are both divisible by 7. So this is 2 over 0.05. And then you could do division.
Oh, yeah.
2 by 0.05. Move this, it's 40. It's 200 there. So you could do it that way too. So with or without calculator. But the thing that I want to get across is translate. This is part C is just saying be able to go back and forth between percentage to fraction to decimal, back and forth. I think you guys know this one. 25% fraction wise is, if I gave you a different one, like 2/5, could you guys change that into a percent or decimal?
Change like the
Yeah. You can do that, yeah. How many of you guys have actually memorized things like 1/5, 1/6, 1/8, 1/9? I would actually do it because you wouldn't believe how quick and easy things get. Really?
My brain doesn't do numbers.
Just one of those things, right? It's just one of those things when I see 1/6, I think, oh yeah, that's easy. That's 0.1666.
Yeah.
It's using the same numbers. 1/8, 0.125.
I think 1/6 is about as far as I.
1/9 is the easiest
Yeah,
one.
1/9.
0.1111. 2 9s, 0.22222. 3 9s, 0.33333. 4 9s, 0.44444. 5 9s, you get the picture, right? These are easy to remember.
Any number over the
9.
same number of nines, like if you do 20 over 9, it'll be 0.20 repeating.
Yeah,
So any number over the same number of nines, it's always that number repeating.
yes. Those are just tricks to remember, just because easy to remember. So I encourage you guys to do
The
that.
same number. Like if you have 301 over 999,
Oh,
it would be
like
0.0 or 0.301 repeating.
Yes.
That's cool.
Yeah, I just did it on the calculator right there. That's correct. If you had 3 digits, put it over 999. Right? So it's just one of those cool things to remember. And it just makes things faster, makes you more confident with these things rather than thinking, ugh, I hate fractions, right? So, all right, let's talk about the next part. Part D says percentage change. We've seen this formula in chemistry. In chemistry, it talks about new minus old divided by old is the percentage increase or decrease. Have you guys seen that? Have you guys seen that? It's usually talking about like changes in formulas. It's usually where most people remember it from more than anything else, the context.
Chemistry was not my big shebang.
Yeah, so a lot of people.
I took bio last year, something, this year,
But do you know what I'm talking about? The percentage change?
percentage yields.
Yeah, what's usually, regardless of what it is, whether it's chemistry, economics, or whatever, increase and decrease are measured by that. New minus old divided by old. If it's a positive number, it's an increase. If it's a negative number, it's a decrease. That's the easiest way to remember it.
Well,
So-
chemistry, usually,
Yeah, but
some.
if you don't look at the absolute value, you look at it being positive, that was an increase. If it was a negative number, it was a decrease.
So
So,
it's
like if you had originally you had 100 marbles, you gave away 25 of them, so you have the new number 75. 100 minus 75 divided by 100. You'll get a number that's negative 25%, which is a decrease of 25. That's an easy way to look at it. The two way, I mean, these are obviously not that hard, but when you're dealing with percentages, typically you're going to use 100, right? Unless they give you an original number to start with, right?
Yeah.
So, two ways the test makers makes it harder is one, they put it into a word problem, or they will make it combined with other math topics. That's what they do, because we know these aren't hard topics, right? So they'll, like number 2 here is a word problem, and it requires translation here. So 60? I don't know why.
Yeah, it's just a lot of multiples. You can simplify it.
I mean, if depending on the relevance, let's say they talk about marbles and the person started with 60 marbles, yeah, you're going to start with multiples
That's
of
just like,
that. So yeah, let's do that. Emma, do you want to read 2 for us?
Sure.
That'd be great.
If C is 20% of P and P is 25% of Q, what percent of Q is C?
How would you translate this one? I hope you don't use proportions on this.
so 0.2 times.
Jeremy.
Okay.
Let her
Jeremy,
think.
stop.
Let her think. Let her think on this one. But I'm just going to tell you, don't use proportions.
Just translate it.
Yes.
20% times P equals C. 25% times okay. Wait,
I just wrote the sentences, but instead of writing the full word percent, I just
Yeah.
used the symbol there.
Yeah.
So what would we do here?
C equals 25% times P.
No, it's 20%.
So I keep on saying 25 for some reason. Yeah,
You see that equation?
Yeah,
No proportions.
I know that's what I was
Okay.
doing, I still had percentages in mind,
Next
I was
one.
getting to that point, so
Yeah.
that would be, P equals 0.25 parentheses Q.
There you go.
Yeah,
And then, X, would it be point X,
Just write X%.
okay, X% Q equals
And what does that mean, X% Q?
certain amount, certain percent.
What's going on between these things?
Multiplied?
Yeah, that's all I want to know. So this is just, and then the is means,
Equals.
yeah, so I'm not gonna waste any energy. There you go, right? How do we get there?
maybe trying substituting 0.25 Q for P in the top one.
Right, yes, this P can be represented here, so let's do that. So. All right, what do we do to get the answer?
Do some multiplication.
Yes. And what's it gonna be when it's 0.2 times 0.25?
I don't know what that
I would do that by hand on the side.
Let's do it by hand, there's nothing wrong with that.
is. Over 10.
Alright, so there's three decimal places in that final answer.
Right, when you multiply that, that's obviously,
Okay, 10, so 0,
0 and 1.
which is,
You put the 0 down, you put the 1 up there.
it's 50. 2 quarters, 50 cents. Right?
yeah,
How many places? 3, 1, 2,
oh yeah, I think I said that.
that's how you do it. You did say 3 places, but you didn't know what to do with it, right? So then you
No,
move
I
1,
did,
2,
I didn't
3.
put you meant, I got confused because you said something about quarters or something.
25 cents, 25 cents, right? So this says D equals 0.05 Q.
Which is.
Jeremy, what do we get?
Oh, I just did 1/5 times 1/4 is 1/20th. 1/20th is
What I was-
percent.
Oh, you could do it that way. If
Yeah.
you want to go fraction, yeah. But this is telling you the answer, which is 5%. That's our answer right there. 0.05, 5%. Great job, collaborative. Yes, and we got there. So, so let's go to number 3 here. Let's have Jeremy, you and Jerry, number 3. This is
$25 good on sale for $20. What percentage is it discounted by?
Well, that means $100 skirt would go to 80, so that's 20% off.
Oh,
That makes sense?
no.
I get what you're saying. Say that again.
So you multiply both prices by 4, so it gets to 100 and then 80, so it's 80.
You could do it that way. What he did was he just made it into a friendly number that he could do in his head.
Oh, that makes sense, yeah.
What I want to introduce to you guys is simply new minus old divided by old. Okay?
Oh.
This is what I want to get into here. New price minus old price divided by old price.
But my thing was so much nicer.
Well, the old price was 25. The new price is 20 because it's discounted, right?
Yeah.
So this is 20 minus 25 over 25. So
Which is
negative 5 over 25, that's negative 1/20th. So, oh, not 1/20, that's 1/5, which is negative 20%. That's what I was trying to get to. So it's a 20% discount. That's what I meant by if it comes out negative. I was doing the math in my head really fast. That's why I wrote 20 on the denominator. But the point of the point of it is that it was a negative number, so it's a discount of 20%. Let's go to number 4. You want to read that one first, Jeremy? That road map?
A person's okay. In terms of S, what percentage of the funds? So
78, 1 over S.
Right. One slice. How many slices did this cake have?
Originally.
Okay.
Make it easy. Don't make
Well, it
it
doesn't say.
too weird. Don't go for an obscure number like, oh, I think it was like 37 slices. It's a weird number.
How about, 8? 8 is a nice number.
Is it a nice number? Is there a nicer number than 8?
Well,
10 or 100? I like
can we not cut a pie into
11?
pieces?
Well, because you'd get
Because it's
10.
all -1. You can't.
Oh, okay.
All the answers are -1s.
Yes, well, that's because he slices and eats one piece.
Right.
I don't want to have 111.
Let me just put it in numbers. Let's go with his 11 for just 2 seconds.
One
If
was
you
that.
had 11 original pieces and you have 10 left, go ahead and divide that. We'll
Yeah.
stick to 10.
Wait,
And
so
you
it's
ate
just
one,
D,
so it's
right?
90%.
How's that?
It's D. Okay,
Is it D though?
I think so.
So if we said 10 slices of cake, we know there's 90% left, right? Does D say 90%?
Well, wait,
10 minus 1 is 9. 9 over 100 is 9%.
That's not B.
Mhm.
I think you said B. Did you say B? Or D?
Put the 10 in there and see which one gives you 90%. That's what I'm going to tell you.
900 over 10. What's 900 over 10? You're right.
Yeah, okay, so it's B.
B is your best answer because that gives you 90%. B is your best answer. So that goes, I think, really more than anything for this, it's just picking a friendly number that's easy to deal with. Let's go to number 5. Emma, you want to read that?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Francis donated to 5 different charities last year. She allotted 20% to food banks, 20% to animal shelters.
10%.
I wrote 10%, but I don't know what I just said out loud.
You said 20.
35% to homeless shelters, 20% to cancer research, and the rest to autism, which I'm gonna write as X. That's gonna be AR.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
If she donated $300 to autism research, what is the total amount of her donations?
well, we can add up the percentages from the other things to find out what percentage of the thing is 300.
85 minus 100,
So she added these up. This is 85.
15. 15% is left.
This X is 15%.
So 15% of the total thing is
50% of the total equals 300.
Yeah.
That's good. And then what do you do with it?
Convert that to a decimal.
Turn it to decimal.
Okay, and then divide both sides.
Divide both sides. I'm gonna erase this. I think you guys got that pretty well.
So I guess I would just do like over.
Oh, no.
Oh, that's not what I would have done.
You guys wouldn't do that.
I would
So
avoid that
what
at all
What I would
costs.
have done.
You would
is-
do what I did, right?
Yeah. What I
Well,
would do
let me hear
is-
what you would have done.
Well, what I would have done is just ignore the decimal and divided the final thing by 100.
And then you could add on the 2 decimal
Oh,
points. It's
yeah.
the same thing.
I know,
I mean,
but that
it's
looks
just-
scarier.
It's scarier
No, that thing.
This
Why
is-
did you add so many zeros when you just? divide
Because
final
that's
thing
what you're
by
supposed to
100?
You
do.
need to do it because there's no point there now.
Now it's just 15 going to 30. That's 2. 1, 2, 3.
Oh, okay, that's not scary.
That's not scary. Yeah.
That's pretty scary. Considering it never went
Wait.
through a long division.
This style of division was not something that you guys learned regularly when you learned division, or?
Oh, no, we did. I just learned
You
how to
just-
get by.
Okay, but like, Jeremy, you were saying this looks scary compared to this. What was friendlier about this?
None of that's fun.
Well, that's friendly because I like calculators.
Of course, right. But I mean, when I see this, I automatically
I
go
was
into
saying,
this
I was saying
form.
that looks worse than just ignoring the decimal and dividing by 100 at the end.
Okay.
even though it's the same thing. There's
The only reason why I'm actually discussing this is because, yeah, we can't ignore the decimal, but I don't want us to ignore it to a point where we forget to add on the 2 digits at the end.
What I would probably do
So-
is I would probably multiply by 2, so it'd be 600 over 0.3, so I could think it was 30, and then I would count to 2,000 by doing it.
I would just, I mean, this is nothing to be afraid of, and it's pretty normal, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, it's $2,000 total.
I didn't actually learn how to do, I learned one division, but I didn't learn how to do that, like having.
Oh, really?
decimal form like that. I guess it makes sense.
Yeah, I just turned it into 300,000 or whatever, 30,000 over 50. So,
Yeah,
Yeah, which is, I mean, it's the same thing.
same thing, okay. Good. We're gonna deal with some problems that are more in depth. I know that these topics themselves are not brand new math topics, and you guys are already doing like pre-cal, which is beyond the SAT and the ACT for the most part. But it's just that they always add a twist to these things to make it a little bit harder. I think you guys understand proportions. It's typically, 2 ratios, whether it's like miles per gallon or, number of female students to male students, you'd have a proportion, right? Or Democratic voters versus Republican voters, you'd have a ratio or something like that. This problem number 6 here is dealing with ratios. You figure it out. Let's have Jeremy read this one first before we answer that question.
Tim walks 1 mile in 12 minutes. How long will it take him to walk 21 miles?
What are the proportions that are being set up here, though?
112 x.
Right, 1 mile, 12 minutes, and then it says X minutes for 21, right? Is that what they're saying? 21 miles.
Yes.
Oh, I got it backwards. 21 miles, X minutes. Okay,
I just multiplied 21 by
21 by 12, what do you get?
200.
252 on that, is that what it is?
Unless I did my math wrong. I multiplied 21 by 10.
210
And I got
plus-
210, and I did 2 times.
Yeah, it's 252. So this is X. You're cross multiplying here. You guys know this, right? Cross multiplying.
Yeah.
X is equal to 252.
And then you have to divide by 60 in order to get the number of hours,
Right. So you're going to divide by 60,
which I don't know how to do off the top of my head.
right? And so if you did that, what would this be? You could do that. Don't do it in your head. Just write it out. 252 by 60. What forces you to feel that you have to do the whole thing in your head without writing it down? That's what I.
No, I don't know how to go about it.
Oh, okay.
I would just do 60, and for 60 plus 60 is 120 times 2 is 240. 240 minus, or 252 minus 240 is.
I know this is something that you guys know how to do with a calculator, and you'll just go like that on the real test. But when I do this kind of math, and pretend this is in the no calculator section.
What I actually do is I write it out a whole bunch of times. I do 60 plus 60 is 120, and then I add another 60, and I keep on adding them until I get my answer, and then I count up how many.
Let me save you a little bit of
Which
energy.
takes like,
How many times does 6 go into 25?
I don't know.
6 times 4 is 24. So it's most likely
I
a
never
4.
learned that.
4 times 0, 240. That's how I would do that.
Right,
That's easier to think of it.
really worth it to invest the time to learn that.
Yeah.
I don't
So
know
what I
how
just
to-
did right there was I made it a friendlier number. I took a 3-digit number and treated it like 25. I treated this as just 6. And that made it friendlier. So I subtract this, I still get 12. 12 over 60 is 1/5. So that's 4 hours, and 1/5 of 1 hour is about 12 minutes. So this is 4 hours and 12.
Doesn't it say 12 down there? Doesn't it still say 12? Can't you just take 12?
Yeah,
and add-
you can do that. But that's what it turns out to be. So I just did 1/5 because that was a fraction. It is 4 and 12. So that is your answer on that. Let's talk about proportions and how they can be changed to represent other forms, yet still mean the same thing. If you have a proportion of A over B, which is proportional to C over D, which of the following four are possible by either cross multiplying or cross dividing here? What do you think about this one, Jeremy Hubinger?
I really don't understand. Is it asking?
What it's asking is, can you manipulate the original proportion to get these four other forms? So let me write the first one.
What does that mean?
A over B, C over B. Can we cross multiply this to get AD equals CB? Can we get that?
Yes.
Yeah, so if we cross multiplied it, we would get AD is equal to CB, right? That's cross multiplying. Right? Can we go from there to get D over B, C over A?
Yeah,
We can, cross dividing, right?
plus a bunch of other things that you can.
Right, so this would be D over B if I cross divide C over A. That's possible, right? Cross dividing. Can I get A over C and B over D?
I think you can get, I'm not over it.
You can, from here, let's do it from here, because this was
You can get.
A over C,
I
and
don't
this is
actually-
B over
I don't
D.
actually know if you can get A over B. That other.
Can you get the last one though? A over D, C over B. Can you get that one?
I don't think so.
I would use this as your starting point. And because you can see how you cross divided here, cross divided here, but you wouldn't be able to get A over D. Because if you divided D on this side,
Well,
It would
be
disappear.
really weird, I don't think, if you find both sides.
well, if you had divide by A squared, you'd still have an A down here.
Well, it would be D over A.
Yeah, but they're not asking
It
you.
wouldn't equal C over B.
Well, no, but it would.
Yeah.
It would.
But you'd have an A squared on this side also. You'd have an A squared on this side,
I know,
and that would be kind of messy.
I
So
know, but you could do it.
the only one that's a no is the A over D equals C over B. That one is not possible. When they're bringing up proportions, the next thing that coincides with this is rates, whether you're talking about miles per hour, dollars per hour, whatever type of thing you're using. Well, I mean, it's just to remind yourself that the rates and proportions are, something per something,
Is it worth it to try to memorize the conversions between miles, kilometers?
I would not say you need to, but it's good to know certain things like they don't provide usually because they usually don't they won't go miles to kilometers or pounds to kilograms. They don't really do that. American to metric, they don't really,
Although I might want to do that anyway for other reasons.
for other reasons. Let's look at number 7 here. And Emma, you want to read this one for us?
A fruit vendor buys pineapples at a cost of $4.14. A vendor then sells them for the price of 3 pineapples for $15. At these rates, how many pineapples would a vendor have to sell to make a profit of $54?
Okay, so you can, oh,
What do you guys think? Emma, what do you think about this one?
I would probably divide them. I would divide like 14 by 4 and 15 by 3, and then figure out how much extra money that is, and then divide 54 by that new number.
Let's slow down with the 54, but let's start with this first. She wants to divide them. Why does that help you?
To find out how much each pineapple is worth.
Okay, good. Let's do that. So go ahead and divide.
Yeah, $5 on one side and
Okay. This one, write it out and divide. I think I already told you guys that joke of that guy who I taught named Bob. And when he would calculate, he refused to do it on paper. And as it got harder, he would look like he was listening to heavy metal music, and he was like, "Yeah, dude." Except for he wasn't saying "Yeah, dude." But I said, "Bob, just write it down.
It's 3.
Finish the division. You can do it. It's not that hard."
Maybe 3.5.
Yeah, I think that's it.
14, 3, 3.5.
Yeah.
Okay,
And then would you
good.
subtract,
Which way would you subtract it?
take the 3.5 from the 5?
Yes. Why?
Because you're gonna wanna find out how much profit there is in each selling of the pineapple.
That's what I wanted to hear. You know why? The most important thing, the first reaction you guys should get on this question is they're talking about profit. And the profit equation is always sell minus buy. So this is the selling, this is the buying. So we're gonna flip the order. This is 5 minus 3.5. The typical profit per pineapple is $1.50.
Yep.
So how many pineapples does this person, Bob, have to sell? We don't know the fruit vendor's name. We'll just call him Bob.
54, 5,
Correct. So $54 divided by 1.5. What do we do with the decimal?
You move it over and you put a 0 there.
That's right. So you move it over. Okay, finish this, Emma. Put the cards down. Don't do the Bob, do it on paper. You can do it.
I know, I'm doing the math.
Okay. I know some people don't like to divide by 15, but I think of a clock. 15 minutes, 30
Okay.
minutes, 45 minutes, 60 minutes.
Give me a second.
Well, you can also just divide by 3.
Jeremy, stop!
Okay.
Ideal.
Just let her do it.
Floating. I have a 3 so far.
Good. The 3 goes here. This is 45. Subtract that, that's 90.
How did I get to 80?
Because this is 14 minus 5.
I have no idea how I got
It's
80.
okay. How many times is 15 going to 90?
Oh, it's the 3 to the 3 to 6.
6. Good. So 36. That means this guy, Bob, had to sell 36 pineapples. Bob, the pineapple vendor, had to sell 36 pineapples in order to make $54.
I personally find it good that I ended up with one.
Oh, you're allergic to them? Oh, I feel bad for you. They're great fruits.
I know, I enjoyed them so much as a child.
They're what?
But not grapefruits.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but I mean, they are an enjoyable fruit. So point of this is that 2 takeaways. 1, the profit equation. That should tell us right away, sell minus buy equals profit. Secondly, the important thing that Emma did immediately without anybody, telling her what to do, was she thought in terms of dollars, not in terms of pineapples, because the final profit is in terms of dollars at $54, right? So instead of thinking 4 over 14, she thought 14 over 4, 15 over 3, because she was thinking in terms of dollars. So that's the takeaway from that one. Okay, to expedite time, I'm going to have you guys try to do 8, 9, and 10 real quick, and we'll review it. They probably are somewhat challenging. Let's talk about the first one with number 8. Did people get answers for this one? Jeremy, you want to tell us what you got?
Well, I don't see.
Okay, Steve's correct. How did you do that?
So I realized that there were 9 gallons of orange juice and 1 gallon of water to start with.
Okay, that's a good starting point there because the first part is 10 gallons of orange juice that's completed already. So this is OJ, 10 gallons. And it tells you it's 90% concentrate. So this is concentrate plus water. So this is 9, and this is 1, because this is 90%. This is 10%. Continue.
So then I just basically took, I plugged in the answers.
Yeah.
So I took the answers, I started with C, so it worked out, but, so I started with 80, and then I put 80 plus 1 plus 9 is 90.
80 plus 1?
Well, like, cause 1 gallon of water. There are 81 gallons of water in the final thing,
Mm-hmm.
and then 9 gallons of orange juice in the final thing. There are a total of 90 gallons.
Okay. Because this is going to be added to this. I wouldn't add it to the 1 because it's
Yeah.
complete already.
Yeah.
So this is 10 plus 80 equals 90. Is the new total
Yeah.
of orange juice.
Yeah.
And that means that the water in this case, which is, says how much more water does it take to make the 10% orange juice. What that means is this 9 of concentrate out of 90 of orange juice is 10%. So that would be correct. Do you guys see how he got the answer here? This is,
Yeah, I was at 990 when you said.
oh, really? Well, that's the right answer then. Yeah, so that made it 10% there. Correct. Okay. How about the next one, number 9? Let's go to Jeremy Rotenberg. Did you get the answer on that one, or are you still working on that one?
For 9, can I tell you the answer I got?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's 1/5.
That's right.
That's what I got.
Yes, all right.
You want to tell us how you got it?
So, the first thing I realized is that M and N are the same thing. They're equal, right? That was the first thing I noticed. And then I noticed that each of those is producing twice as much as L.
Right.
So I just wrote like,
Yeah. And then what'd you do?
so, I said, M equals 2L, because I was just saying that it's 2M at this point.
Oh, I see.
M and N.
In the actual production, it's double.
Yeah.
Right. So this is time, but this is production. Okay, so this would be 4, 4, and 2.
Yeah,
Is that how you did it, or how'd you do it?
basically, yeah. And I knew that if each of them was producing double,
Mm-hmm.
then it would be 4 produced from the 2 M's to the 1 produced from the L, so it must be 1/5.
Right.
Is there a better way to do that? That's kind of a leap of thought.
Kind of. Let's go with what you're saying here. If you said in 2 hours, how much water does M produce? It produces 4, did they say gallons? Is that what they called it?
Well,
Hours.
They just said, they didn't even give us
It's a 4 gallon pool.
I'm just gonna use gallons for the sake of it, okay? So this will produce 4 gallons, and then 2.
Wait, no, is that?
Is that right?
No, I don't think so.
No, maybe not.
Because it has to be 4 hours equals 4 gallons.
This is how I would have done it.
Wait, no, it's 4, 4, and 4. They all produce the same amount because it's double the time in that one.
Yeah,
Let me show you what I would do here. In 1 hour, this would fill 1/2 of the pool. Let's
Yes.
call this a pool instead of production. Pool. It'll fill 1/2 of the pool in 1 hour. This would also do 1/2, and this would do 1/4 in 1 hour.
Yes.
So if they all worked for 1 hour, in total, you add these up, this is 1 1/4 or 5/4. Okay? That's the total amount of water they produce in 1 hour. Of that, it's 1/4. So L versus the total is 1/4 divided by 5/4. when you do the math here, it comes out as 1/5, which is the same answer that Jeremy and Emma got.
I did mine a different way.
There's a few ways to do it. This is just one. And obviously we all came to the same answer as 1/5 on that one.
It's kind of
Okay. Do you want to do number 10? Did you get to that one?
I'm about to finish this one.
Okay. Jeremy over here, Evinger, did you finish this one? Number 10? Okay. Okay. Well, this is talking about people working together. And the key thing to keep in mind about this problem of people working together is they're working at the same time. So it's not like it's not like consecutive workers. They're all working at the same amount of time. So when they work together, they need 10 hours each, right, to get this project done. So this project, if you were like the boss, what you're doing is you're multiplying how many hours you're paying out. You're paying 80 hours of work to get this project done. So 8 people, 10 hours each. That's 80 work hours that you're paying out as a boss. But if you're the boss and you're like, you know what, I have a limited budget, how many hours will it take 5 people to do this, working at the same rate to complete half the job? Well, half the job, work hours is the job. The original job took 80 work hours, so half of this is 40. And if you have 5 people doing this, so this is people, this is work hours. This is going to take 8 hours. You guys see that? The answer here is 8. So instead of working 10 hours to do 80 work hours, you're reducing the workforce down to 5 people, and you only need half of the job done. This is 40 work hours. You're the boss. You're the one who's looking at the timesheets and saying, okay, well, my budget only will pay for this many 40 work hours, and then I can only take 5 people. So I've got 8 hours to get this done. So that's what they're trying to show you right there. Questions on that one? All right, let's move forward. We have like 5 minutes. We may not get to the essay section, but that's okay because it's very self-explanatory if you ended up reading it. But let's talk about averages. I know that averages is something you guys have dealt with for a long, long time. And you know the formula, sum of terms divided by the number of terms. So what they do to make it harder is usually they include it in a word problem. And they typically try to make it combined with other math topics to make it a little bit confusing. But for the first, these examples on point A, it says, if 5 is the average of 3 numbers, the sum of the numbers must be, this is pretty straightforward. What would the sum of the numbers be? 15, correct. If the 10 numbers sum to 45, the average must be?
Divide by 10.
I'm at the top of the page. 4.5. Do you guys see that? On page number, 218, right?
Yeah.
4.5. These are pretty straightforward. This is nothing too hard. 11 is a straightforward average one. Emma, how would you do that one?
If the average or the mean of 5, 9, 10, 12, and A equals 2A, what's the value of A?
Oops. 12.
So I think the first thing I would do is add the numbers together and see what that is.
Yeah.
36 plus A.
Plus A. And then you added it up, it's 36.
So we know that you have to divide by 5.
It's 36. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Jeremy just added this, that you gotta divide by 5. Yeah. Okay,
You could multiply the other side by 5, so you'd have 36 plus A equals 10A, and then you would subtract A from each side, so you have 36 equals 9A, and then you divide each side by 9,
mm-hmm.
which would be A equals 1. Takes me a while to do.
What's 30, what's,
I know what it is. 4.
yeah, good. So it's 4. Good, so that's our answer, so it's 4. So that's basically what they're doing there. Not that hard, straightforward math here. The only thing I wanted to reiterate here, because we're running up on time here, I think you guys could do these average problems pretty easily. I'm not going to make you do it right now because we have very little time here. But I think if we were to do one that's worth talking about, it'd be number 14. That's probably the only one I want to do. Do you want to read that for us, Jeremy? Okay.
If the average rate of 10 students in Mr. Smith's class is 82, the average rate of the 15 students in Ms. Jones' class is 74. What's the average rate of all 25 students? Okay.
What would you do here?
If you add two averages and divide by 2, is that equal to the total average or not?
It wouldn't be divided by 2.
You'd have to divide it by it's not 2.5 because it's 1 and then 1.5.
I wouldn't reduce it, but I mean, if you did that, you'd have to reduce to decimals for everything
No, I'm
else.
just saying it out loud like that.
Oh, okay.
I wouldn't do the math with that number.
I'm gonna give you the topic they're talking about here is called weighted averages. So does that rekindle some memory of
Yeah, okay.
what do you do with a weighted average?
So it's 10 times 82 plus 15 times 74
Right.
plus 15 times 74 over, what is it, 25? 35. Right, 25. Yeah, 25.
Well, that's gonna give you the answer
So it's a long day.
on that. That would be correct. We're gonna wrap it there because the clock says 7, and I know they're gonna kick us out of here pretty soon. But that was correct setup for the weighted average. Just continue doing the work. I think you guys are doing a great job here. Some of those math problems are really hard, and I know that it takes a lot of translation, but just getting used to that is key. So next week, I'll see you guys on Thursday, not Tuesday, because you guys have the college night at St. Mary's. But I will see you guys on Thursday. Right?
I have an easy. Sorry.
That's all right.